Are live.
We are live.
With Road to the Blue Map, guys. A little bit different look this year. We're going to be doing it in TV24's studios. You know, praise the Lord for that, the relationship we've had with them, and also Primetime right here. Tell everybody about Primetime before we get rolling on this Road to the Blue Map.
Primetime Sports is kind of a new up-and-coming, and when you want to be the best, you team yourself with the best. So we team ourselves with Average Joes and respect you, think the world of what you've done, and we just want to do it. I mean, we're not making a huge killing off doing this. We just do it because we love covering high school sports.
Hey, we appreciate you, and the opportunity to be here in TV24 has been fantastic for yourself, myself, Coach Beckett. I'm sitting here with two head coaches. I feel a little inadequate here. We're talking football with some head coaches right here around us, and we're going to kick things off right here. This is going to be a little bit different setup this year. Caleb Brooks usually sits in on these right here. He's taking the head coaching job, obviously, at Pike Road, so he's not going to be joining us this year, but we have this thing covered. Let's kick this thing off in 6A. We're going to start in 6A, and we're talking about Gadsden City, who's hosting Muscle Shoals. You want to talk about a tough game right out of the gate? Gadsden City's got one right here. Muscle Shoals last year had one of the best offenses in all of football, 1A through 7A. They also made a playoff run. They ended up getting beat. Pretty much an upset, people were thinking, that second round there. But Gadsden City never shies away from competition. They always play very tough competition right out of the gate. One credit to Ollie Smith on that. Gadsden City finished the season last year 9-4. C.J. Worthy, and Coach, you've been around him. He's one of the best unspoken backs in the state of Alabama. He's very explosive, very powerful. But all this offseason, we've heard a lot about Zion Gibson there. He's a 4-star. He's the number 3 cornerback in the nation. That's somebody to definitely watch out for in that secondary at Gadsden City. And just want to see what Ollie Smith's got, you know, coming out of the gate. Ollie's got it. He always starts tough, but it gets your guys ready for these tough games they got coming down the road, because that 6A North that they're in is a gauntlet each and every week, as each one of you guys know. We'll kick this thing over to the next game we're going to break down right here. Is going to be Fort Payne versus Scottsboro.
Hey, before you go there, you talked about Gadsden City scheduling tough. I think this is an opening game that could be one of the better games in our state.
Oh, absolutely.
I think people's kind of, I know Muscle Shoals is favored by 4, and Muscle Shoals, rightfully so, is a really good ball team. But I think Gadsden City's kind of been slept on this entire offseason. I think they got a chance to win this ball game.
Especially being at home. That's another one that's always going to be, having that thing held at Titan Stadium over there is going to be a really good one. The next game is going to be a very, very, very big game. We're looking at Fort Payne versus Scottsboro. That game's always a fun one to watch. You know, growing up, Coach Beckett, you know as well as I do, these two teams look similar on the field. The uniforms look similar. They usually have a similar style of play. Fort Payne is favored in this one, double digits. That's not we don't make those lines.
Yeah.
We're to go through that. AHS, FHS makes the lines for us, so don't come at us if you don't agree with the line. But, you know, Fort Payne is one of those teams that is very lucky. They got Dax Varnador, who's one of the best quarterbacks, not only in North Alabama, but I do truly believe in the state of Alabama. And he is very experienced. The game has really slowed down for this guy. You know, last week he looked as good as he always looks, you know, and they were up on Albertville, I believe 40-something points in the second quarter. And, you know, just cruised on. There's also a guy up there named Carter Tinker, who's an absolute stud on defense. He's Coach Tinker's son. He shows up every season. There's going to be 100 tackles. He's getting 100 tackles or more every single season. That's not ever going to change. So those are two guys to watch out for. On the Scottsboro side of things, you know, we did a coaches show with Coach Van. He's just come over. You know, last year he was at Sylvania, and he's made a name for himself at Sylvania. And when he got there, he changed the mindset at Sylvania. Now he leaves them with a jumbotron and in a much better place than when he arrived, which is always a tribute to a good coach. But I want to see on his guys has played in some really big football games. I want to see how quick it takes for them to execute. Because, you know, you got all new system on offense and all new system on defense. How long is it going to take for his guys to settle in? You guys both know that.
Well, I mean,
head coaches.
And Scottsboro was 8-3 last year, but we got a bunch of coaches right here in our local area who struggle, who are great coaches. I mean, look at Jonathan Miller. He's the most winningest coach in Sacks history, and went to Piedmont, followed a legend, and they kind of struggled for what they usually do at Piedmont.
yeah.
So anytime you come in year one, Coach, and you can attest to that, you got to get your culture, and it takes some time. I think that second year is always easier than the first year.
Yes, it's a great learning curve, and year 1 to year 2 is kind of like game 1 to game 2. Same. That's where your big jump takes place.
And I think in that game as well, like these are two really good teams. I think Fort Payne, everybody, they're in some people's top 10 to start out the year. I think
Absolutely.
they're a team that got better and better last year. I remember watching them in a jamboree game against Oxford last year, and I thought, they may struggle. And then they kept getting better and better. They bring back their quarterback. Anytime you get the signal caller back and you don't have to start over new right there, that's a big deal for our team. That gives the team a lot of confidence to know you got a guy who's a veteran leader, who is a guy that's plays the game the right way, is tough, and is going to lead your offense. I think that Fort Payne's going to give Scottsboro all they want.
Get a chance. Go see Fort Payne. They score points. They're fun,
fun to
to watch.
watch.
Fun to watch.
They got a quarterback on offense and one on defense, Carter Tinker. So
Yeah, Carson Tinker can play.
he can play. Let's kick. I tell you what. Let's talk about the Oxford Yellow Jackets. For a minute. I'm gonna let you handle that one.
I sat down with Coach Adams today for keeping up with Oxford athletics, and we just talked about, you know, they played a jamboree game last week against Oak Mountain, and everything's always sloppy in a jamboree game. But as a coach, and you can probably attest to this, you want film, you want to see what you're doing well, you want to see what you're doing bad so you can fix it, but you really just want to get out of a jamboree game without anybody being hurt. And so he said they came out pretty healthy. They got one of the best quarterbacks in our area in Mason Mims. They got one of the best defensive players in our area in Keenan Britt. And Keenan Britt, if anybody didn't see the jamboree game, he looked like he was in midseason form, had a few sacks, was flying around, was causing havoc everywhere. And I think Keenan Britt's got a chance to be a really good player. He's already a good player, but I think he takes another step forward now as a junior, because now he's a leader as well.
Just committed, right?
Yeah, just committed to South Carolina.
Yeah.
Dex Tolbert got an interview with him, so if you hadn't seen that, go check that out. Great kid, comes from a great family, but they got more guys. James Tapley's going to be inside linebacker. I'm intrigued to see how they replace Hudson Gilman, who played linebacker for him last year, is out with injury, had to have surgery. He's a baseball guy, so he's going to miss the whole entire year. But they got a guy, a Fleming kid that plays outside linebacker. He just got his first offer from Tulane. And offensive line's where they're going to get better. They had a move in from Mumford. They got some guys that are older. So I think they're going to be better up front. And they've got a realistic chance to make a run. But we're going to see how good. Central Carrollton's got a running back that's out of this world. They started out 12-0 last year, ended up getting beat, and went 12-1. And so Central Carrollton's got a chance to really test Oxford early. You got to go. It's not a far trip, but anytime you got to go on the road with high schoolers, it's always a circus because you never know what can happen. But 9-3 last year for the Oxford Yellow Jackets, lost to a really good Parker team in the second round. I look for them to take a step forward. Jalen Taylor is another guy. He can absolutely fly. That's going to be the guy that replaces Kamari Hampton. I don't know if he's got the ball skills that Kamari Hampton's got yet to go up and get the high point the ball yet, but top end speed, way better. And so he's going to be a guy that's electric for the Oxford Yellow Jackets. I'm intrigued by that game.
You guys saw more this summer than I did, but they were the most impressive team I saw this summer.
They were super. When we saw them at Gadsden City in 7-on-7,
yeah,
they were super athletic. But you and I both know the game ain't won with 7-on-7.
That's
you
right.
better have
That's
guys
right.
up front. The game is still won in the trenches. I don't care what happens. If you can't block nobody or you can't win the battle up front and stop the run, it don't matter. So that's where the question mark is for the Oxford Yellow Jackets.
So we're moving on to 5A now. We have any more 6A breakdowns? That's going to move on to 5A here.
Ready for 5A.
Beckett, kick us off in 5A. Who do you got?
Well, I got St. Clair and Jemison, and that's really exciting. T-Rob over there at St. Clair. You talk about a year 1 to year 2. I look for those guys to take a big step. Barry Simmons with their defense, and again another team. Again during the summer, you go, wow, this team potentially is better, and they jumped out at us. And so I feel like I like St. Clair against Jemison.
I got to go down there and check them out last week, and their crowd for a jamboree was packed.
Mm-hmm.
There was nowhere to sit at a jamboree game.
Yeah.
So that tells you along right there. The
people are hungry.
The excitement level that's there. And I texted you and said, hey, they played Boaz. You said, hey, both of these teams are going to be able to score. And so anytime you build that excitement, you got people coming out. And it's like I say, when I first got to Mumford, Bill Smith had the mentality, we're just going to outscore people, because I was 25 years old and we lost 9 starters the year before. So they're going to have to be okay defensively, but their offense is going to score enough if they take care of the football to keep them in ball games. I'm excited for T-Rob. He's an Oxford guy. He graduated a couple years after I did. I'm just glad he's in shape, because watching him coach at 7-on-7, if he wasn't in shape and in good health, he'd probably have a heart attack.
I like what he's doing. He's grinding. He's coming in, taking a program that was down, and been in that situation many a time. So, man, I'm excited to see what St. Clair does.
Next game we're going to talk about is going to be Arab, who's finished 8-3 last year. They're going to be taking on Albertville. You know, believe it or not, you know, Albertville, they were kind of up against it last week. You can't take too much into that game. I mean, they were playing a very hot Dax Varnador, and Fort Payne jumped up on them. For Albertville, man, it's kind of like, let's get back to the basics here. You know, it's like each year you're in 7A. Like the margin for error is not there. There is no margin for error in 7A. So it's very, very tough. When I say get back to the basics, if you're Albertville, this is the way I look at that. Let's try to take care of business with these teams in and around us. Mm-hmm. Maybe if we cannot go up there and win this region in 7A, okay, I get that. But let's play the Boazes, the Gunnersville tough, the Arab tough. This is one of those games where they could showcase that. This is a game they could do that. Kyle Routon, another guy who's been at Oxford before, who grew up a Southside guy in Etowah County, is taking over there for Lee Osment now. Very similar in the style of play. They're going to be very physical. They're going to run the football, and he has a defensive mind. So obviously he's going to have his hand on that defense, an already stingy defense. But anytime, and you know this, you've seen Coach Routon for years, talk about him and the style of defense they play, because they are always very physical and fly to the ball.
Yeah, and this is a rivalry. You know, it goes way back. I mean, these guys have played for a long time. Got a chance to sit down with Coach Brown the other day for a really long time. He's got a great history, man. He's been a lot of really good places. Good college coach.
College coach.
Yes, and the facility upgrade is taking place at Albertville. I like the vision, and I like where they're trying to head, and they're dreaming big. You know, Arab, you know, the elephant in the room. You've got a coaching change, and some things have taken place during the off season. How will they adapt? Will they continue? Because they've had a good run, man. Arab's
they've been really good.
Yeah, they've been really good of late. So this will be one to keep an eye on and see who's where.
The next one we're going to talk about is going to be Gunnersville is going to be traveling to Southside. You know, last year this was actually a very, very good football game. Gunnersville finished the season last year 12-2. Southside finished the season 8-3. Last year's game was 14-10, and Southside had a chance to win that game. Gunnersville literally gutted that game out. Coach Reese, you know, the sky's the limit. He's got 2 college running backs in there. He's got receivers galore. We watched them on 7-on-7. They look like every one of them 6'5" and 30-inch vertical. Over on the other side, 6'5" and a 30-inch vertical. And then he's got a kid in the backfield that can run a 4.3. He's got another kid that's got an Army offer in the backfield. It's very interesting to see how Coach Reese distributes the ball to these guys. And, you know, Southside's got a new head coach as well. Coach Stewart moved on. You and I went and sat down with him. What he's going to do, he's an offensive-minded guy. He was Oxford's OC before taking this job. What he's going to do, he's going to lean on that big offensive line they have. They have a big, strong, veteran offensive line, and I look for them to run the ball even more than they have in the past. And a guy named Cole Garrett is a guy you're definitely going to want to look out for, because he's played safety and started at safety for them, I believe, since he was a freshman. Now he's going to be moving over to running back, probably still playing some defense as well. But that's a guy that's kind of going to have a breakout year, I do believe. If you're a Southside Panther fan, do not buy into last week's game 1 iota for a couple of reasons. A, Central Clay is probably your favorite by a lot of people to win 5A. B, that's a very tough place to go visit. You're playing against a coach with 350 wins and 8 state championship rings. And C, it was your first outing, and I'm going to tell you right now, Coach Stewart did not want to show anything last week. And they still played them pretty tough down there. So
that's not the game you want to start your.
So don't
your
buy into last week's game if you're a Southside.
And like I said, like in jamborees, the coach is not trying to show the whole entire playbook.
He wants to see who shies away from contact.
But I think this game could be close, like it was last year, because of one of the things you said. They're going to lean. They're huge up front.
Huge.
They're really, really good up front.
Brown's
he likes to run the football. Jameen Brown is a 3-star committed to Duke. Like, they're going to be really good up front, and you can slow down the game a little bit. And if you slow down the game, even though you lost some players from last year's team, you can still keep that game a lot closer than what it would have been. So I look for this game to be a lot closer than what everybody thinks it's going to be.
We know what Gunners will bring to the table. You know, the 3-3 stack that defense. We know what they bring to the table offensively. But defensively, the 3-3 stack versus that big offensive line. Can they control the ball? Another game to keep an eye on. This is a pick 'em.
Yeah.
And,
they actually have it a 1-point game.
Yeah.
I mean, it's actually a 1-point game on the website. So, yeah, I think that you're exactly right. That one can go either way. 5A wise, let's see what else we got right here. Let's talk about Sardis and Geraldine. That's another one that's going to be a really interesting game. You know, I sat in with B.J. Brooks yesterday, did his coach's show. Coach Beckett, you've sat in with Michael Davis recently. I'm going to let you talk about Geraldine in just a second. You know, sitting in with B.J. Brooks, a very interesting fact right here. People, I don't even know if you know this. I don't even know if I've heard of this anytime soon. Coach, you chime in if you have. He's replacing 10 starters on offense.
I watched today. I was putting the video together, and I watched that, and I kind of saw your face whenever he told you that. Like, that is unbelievable.
Yeah,
like,
unbelievable.
To replace that many guys on offense, like, that would have me terrified as a head coach.
Oh, yeah.
To know going into the year I've got to replace that many guys.
That's right.
To have that much newcomers, and you know everything that can go wrong offensively in football. To have that many guys that's new to playing the game, that hadn't played a lot of snaps, and to depend on them game in, game out without them making a mistake, that's terrifying.
No, there ain't no doubt. Now, the one good thing is he does return his quarterback. And we talked about that on the show. Brian Chapman's an experienced quarterback, and they took a big step in year one. You know, from year one to year two is usually when you make your biggest strides, but they took a big step in year one, and I thought they. At times they looked really, really good last year, you know, and then they had the injury bug hit some, and they ended up being 6-4. But they're facing a very tough Geraldine team now, albeit Geraldine lost a lot of guys, you know, Carlos Mann being one of them. But Michael Davis is that guy. Excuse me, friends, but he's that guy.
Yeah.
He broke the nation's longest winning streak when they beat Fife. He went to the semifinals. He can hit not the Dougie, the Gritty. I'm sorry, I don't know if y'all seen that video where he's like got a million hits where him and his coaching staff did that. But Michael Davis is one heck of a football coach, and I know for a fact he's going to have a game plan cooked up for this. It's going to be a very interesting game. But Beckett, before we get out of this one, talk to us about what you and Coach Davis talked about.
Well, you know, when you lose 18 players, that's an enormous amount, but he has a foundation there, and he had built it from, you know, Pee Wee all the way up. So it's extremely impressive what he's got going. Now coaches send me a lot of film. The former football coaches get film sent to them. So I've seen a lot of film on both sides of this one, and I'm impressed with Geraldine and what they have going, as well as B.J. Brooks. And the quarterback can spin it, and he's got some guys coming. I think this will be a really good one. But Geraldine's won so much the past couple of years, 12-2 last year, and although Sardis is trending up, I have to give the edge to Geraldine.
That'd be a really, really good game to watch. This next one, we're going to talk about the Boaz Pirates. I got to sit in with Jeremy Sullivan, and Coach Sullivan and I talked a whole lot. You know,
It's a man's man there.
Man, he was a very, very good offensive lineman at JSU. A lot of people know him from his playing days at JSU, but since he's arrived in Boaz, they've had a different mindset. They've went up there and they've handled business. They too got hit by an injury bug last year. And I'm going to tell you something. He's got one of the best overall quarterbacks in North Alabama up there, and Tyler Pierce. That guy can flat out play. You know, we watched him play last week at St. Clair in the Jamboree game. It's just, he makes it look, you know you're good when you make it look easy. The way he spins the ball, it comes off his hand a little bit different than you'd see most guys. It just looks like a flawless release. He's real headsy. He sees the field real well. And watching him in 7-on-7, just the zip he puts on the ball, the way he controls the offense, and you're thinking, man, you know, this dude can really do it. But then you see him in pads, and there's 11-on-11, and there's chaos going all around him. He's the same guy. He's the same, you know, calm demeanor. He don't get rattled. You know, he gets guys into their checks. He gets guys into place. He just looks like that guy. You know what I mean? It's just he carries himself a little different. It's just he's really, really good football player. And Coach Sullivan even said at media days, we asked him about Pierce. He said, "Hey, it just makes his job a whole lot easier.
Yeah.
It's like having a coach on the field."
Yeah, and when we talk about the job that Coach Sullivan's done at Boaz, I think people forget because the way he's got that program trending, at how bad they were at one time, like at how uncompetitive they were at one time. And they went 6-6 last year, but we all know they were playing their best ball at the end of the year.
Right.
They went upset a really good Southside team, like shocked a really good Southside team in the first round, and then lost in the second round. So I think they have a chance to be really, really, really good.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. We also made a post about their kicker. Jose Araguin, I believe is his name.
He has a great flow.
Dude, he's got
Best
the best hair I think I've ever seen. Beckett, you comment on his hair. I mean, 1988 IROC Z28
Yes, sir.
kinda.
Yes, sir.
But we made this post about this gentleman late last night, probably 12 midnight, somewhere around in there.
Yeah.
And since that time, it's gotten 30,000 impressions on Facebook. It's been shared over 150 times, I believe, and it's getting up to close to 600 likes. It's just absolutely blew up. He has 2 offers now. He's hit a 50-yard field goal in a game. He's a 4.0 student. He's won a citizenship award. He's a big-time weapon when you got a quarterback like Pierce that can get you down the field. You get inside that 30-yard line, you got 3 points on the board with that guy.
Yeah.
We're going to move this thing over to 4A. Let's see. You ain't got no more 5As, correct?
No.
All right.
We've got, Jacksonville's a 5A, but they play 4A at a wall.
That's right. You want to?
Yep.
Yeah, we
who's
can
got
talk
that
about
one?
Jacksonville a little bit.
I have them.
You can talk about it. Kick us off there, Beckett.
Yeah, well, the Peavy Dog, Scott Peavy's era begins at Etowah, and the big thing is let's keep some players at home, build a program, get some stability. Been a lot of change through the years, and he's the guy, man. He's come to Madison County, and he's gone to Haralson County, and this guy has won everywhere, and not the easiest of jobs. Nothing against those places. They just didn't have great history, and he'll get them tough and be able to play. So that one is should be a lot of fun. Jacksonville's coming off of 10 win, 8 win, 7 win, 7 win. So. They've won a lot of football games. So, but the PV era is underway, and let's see how quickly. It's not an if. It's a when he gets that. The only variable is time. Scott Peavy will have that program rolling.
Jamison Sism. I'm going to talk about him for a second. We'll kick it over, and you're going to talk about Jacksonville. Jamison Sism, Mississippi State baseball recruit. He was a have to keep. If you go sign a Mississippi State baseball scholarship, you don't have to play football anymore. And a lot of coaches at the college level was probably telling Jamison, hey, we'd prefer you didn't go play football. He's like, I got to do it. I grew up with these guys. I'm going to play in this game. Jamison is one of the most outstanding athletes. We made a post about him. What he's done in all 3 sports has been tremendous. He's one of the best pure athletes in the state of Alabama, not just North Alabama. He's got a cannon of an arm. He can run it. He can throw it. He's hard to bring down when he is running it. He's going to be a handful for this Jacksonville team, but I want you to tell us a little bit about Jacksonville.
And also, Etowah, they went through a ton last year, so now to have some stability with Scott Peavy, I think that's going to help their program out a ton. Like you said, it's not a if he gets it turned around, it's a when he gets it turned around. Jacksonville, I saw them play the other night in the Jamboree, and they kind of surprised me. They're huge up front. Defense played really well. And the biggest question mark for them is they got to replace a guy named Jim Ogle. He's at Murray State now. His dad got a job at Murray State, and so he went to Louisiana Monroe, ended up transferring to Murray State, got in the transfer portal.
That's not filling shoes. That's filling skis right there. That kid was big time.
Unbelievable. But the thing about them is, look, I remember when they had to replace Ron Wiggins, everybody's like, how are they going to replace this guy? And they never missed a beat. And that guy was a dude, too. I don't think we still tackled him at White Plains that night. That was a dude, too. But they didn't miss a beat. Head coach Clint Smith is used to winning. He's won everywhere he's been. He's successful. He's built that program up.
Is he underappreciated? Look at what they've done.
I think people don't talk about him enough. I don't think he gets as much respect as what he probably deserves because he won at Sachs, too. Everybody forgets that he won at Sachs when he was there as well.
He's the one that raised them up. Jacksonville didn't win before.
Yeah, and then Jacksonville was not very good before he got there. I think Clint Smith deserves a lot more respect, but there's a guy, running back Zay English. He had a really good year for him last year. They got to replace replaced some receivers that were really, really good for him last year. I look for him to have a big year. They're going to be a team that leans on the run because, like I said, that not only do they have to replace Jim Ogle, but right now they don't know who their quarterback's going to be. Jackson Bonner is a kid that's fighting for that, and then there's a Salmon kid that's a freshman that's fighting for that position as well. They both played some the other night in the Jamboree. I look for Bonner to get the start. I think he's a senior. I think he gives them probably the best opportunity to win right now. But I don't think this is – I think Jacksonville can definitely compete for a 2-seed or a 3-seed in their region.
I hate preparing for a team, and I don't know who the quarterback is.
It's difficult.
Yes,
it's very difficult.
Yep.
But I think that Jacksonville, it's going to be a tough opening game for Etowah because I think Jacksonville still is better than Etowah. But I wouldn't be surprised if a hard-nosed, tough Scott Peavy team keeps this game a lot closer than what it should be. And because Jacksonville, even though they move up to 5A, I don't think they got much worse.
Right. They're still athletic.
They're very athletic. They're always going to be athletic.
Good. Coach Peavy will shorten the game, so it'll be interesting.
I got to give Brian Owens as Jacksonville's defensive coordinator. He started last year. They run some variation of the 3-3 stack. They're doing some different stuff this year. He's a funky guy, and he's like, my coaching staff has to kind of calm me down from doing some of the funky new stuff just to keep us doing things the right way. But he likes to take chances. They got to take chances at Jacksonville. It's another thing. They're going to score points offensively. If they can just get a few stops a game defensively, they're going to find themselves in every ball game they play.
No doubt. Ain't no doubt. Guys, we're gonna talk about a jamboree right here because it's the Hoax Bluff Eagles and the Westbrook Warriors. So we're gonna definitely talk about that game right there. Even though it's a jamboree, I sat in with Mike Robertson today and we talked about this game, and actually he and Coach Smith was actually hanging out today as well earlier, and then they're gonna go play a game, coming up this week. But jamboree game, I was interested to what Coach Rob said. You two guys are head coaches, so I want you to both talk about this right here. Coach Rob said he is focused on winning the game, obviously. I mean, he wouldn't play it if he wouldn't. He said he's focused on when those JV guys or backups get in, so to speak. Here's why. He said, we're not as deep as we normally are. I've got to have some depth created. That's what he's dialed in on. I want both of you guys' opinion on that. Beckett, you can lead us off because he said, I know what these starters are going to do. They've been doing it for me for years. But what are these JV guys going to do, or these second team guys going to do when they get in the game?
Well, attrition is going to take place during the season. 100% that injuries will take place, and your roster will take a hit here or there. If those guys roll into a game, especially a quarterback, and he's never taken a snap, and it's a big Week 7 game, and it's a region game, he is not prepared. So this is a beautiful moment for him to have a chance to, and there's nothing, you can do practice forever, infinity, but until you're under the lights and you're in a game time situation with officials and fans in the stands, it's not the same. It doesn't replicate the same thing. So I think those, for a coach now, for Joe Fan, the dude on the 12th, it may not mean as much. For us to find those players, it's invaluable.
Yeah, I think you said it best. There's going to be injuries that happen throughout the year. You've got to be able to plug and replace. The teams that have the depth or build the depth to plug and replace are going to be the teams that are successful. And Hoax Bluff, I mean, he's very much right. After your first couple of teams in that region, there's about 4 or 5 teams in that 4A Region 6 that's going to be fighting for those last 2 spots. And so they're going to all have injuries. Who is going to step up and fill the role the best? And that's going to be the team that's successful.
Westbrook expects to be better. Got a young quarterback, really young quarterback. But that'll be interesting. And of course, Coach Rob is grooming another group coming through. So
it's weird to say, but you got second-year head coach at Westbrook Christian, Steve Smith, versus 29-year head coach Mike Robertson at Hoax Bluff.
As you know,
There's 2 Hall of Famers.
Unbelievable.
I mean, that
first ballot.
Seeing 2 guys. Mike Robertson's already in the Hall of Fame. Steve Smith will be in the Hall of Fame. But seeing 2 guys go at it right there. Really interesting matchup right there for a jamboree, and I'm glad they're getting that game done because it's an inter-county rivalry game too.
No doubt. You're gonna know how tough you are after you play a Mike Robertson Hoax Bluff coach football team. They're gonna get in the eye and they're gonna hit you in the mouth.
Yeah.
Now, there's one guy that I think everybody's gonna know more about as the year goes along, and I think his name is Anderson Morgan. I watched them play Southside last year, and Southside was definitely the superior team, but Anderson Morgan did everything in his power to keep that game as close as possible for a long time.
Glad he
had like an interception.
And
had
Hoax
like a
Club don't pull
touchdown
any
catch.
punches. They're good at what they do. You know what's coming. Hey, I tell you what's interesting here. You got two guys with one with a name on the stadium and one that's gonna have a name on the stadium, and that's that don't happen every week.
That's right.
Yeah,
That's a good
you're
point.
exactly right.
What else we got in 4A, fellas? Why don't you break down this Hanley Central Clay game right here?
Well, here's the thing. Hanley, Coach Larry Strain, another ball game where you've got two legendary coaches. Larry Strain versus Danny Horn. I think Danny Horn's probably my top two right now of coaches is Benefield and Horn. I think, and if you don't
He's
agree,
Mount
with,
Rushmore.
if you don't agree with me, you hadn't watched a lot of football.
At the very least, he's Mount
Yeah,
Rushmore.
at the very
of the
least, he's,
HSAA.
yeah. And so you think about what Danny Horn's been able to do, and he's been at 2A Clay County. He's won at 3A Clay County, and then he went and won at Ben Russell, and now he's won 2 state championships at 5A Central Clay County. Unbelievable coach. And you think about Hanley, Larry Strange won 2 state championships there, was very successful at Woodland, which not a lot of people can say that. Won some state championships in girls basketball, which he had some pretty good talent, in case y'all didn't know. Just his daughters alone were pretty good players.
Yeah, they're the number 1 and number 2 scorer in the state.
Yeah, so like he had some pretty good talent there in girls basketball. But LaDamian Boyd is back from injury. He was one of the best backs in our coverage area last year before he got hurt. One of the best players, period. Got hurt, had a knee injury last year. I'm excited to see what he looks like coming back. Kind of like when, and we're going to get to this team, but kind of like how I was watching Piedmont the other night with Raleigh Pinto. Can he come back 100%? Can he be the same back that he was before he got hurt? And the thing about Hanley is I try to forget about Hanley because I still have nightmares about them from when we had to play them at White Plains. So I'm not familiar with all their players. But I do know that they're going to be super athletic. I do know that they're going to look like they've been cut out of a cookie cutter, and they're all going to look the same. They work hard in the weight room. Larry Strain's going to have the weight room. Like they were kind of ahead of the
They got
game.
26 racks in their weight room.
Yeah, they were ahead of the game. They built a 20. Like it's unbelievable. You walk in and like I remember one year we had our region meeting there, and me and one of my assistant coaches walks in, and I look at him. I said, "How are we supposed to compete with this?" Like, I'm struggling to buy 12 racks right now, and they got 26 racks here. Essentially, they can work out 2 people at a rack in every class. Like, can you imagine how much stuff you could get done if you only had 2, 3 people at a I had 4 or 5. And so we're trying to work fast. They're getting bigger, faster, stronger, and we're wasting time trying to work out our 5th guy at one rack. And
That's
so,
something you and I understand that everybody wouldn't, but it plays so much
But
into.
Larry Strain, you have to respect the job that he does.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing about Larry Strain is when you're trying to coach against him defensively, you don't know if he's going to come out in double wing. You don't know if he's going to come out in the spread. You don't know what he's going to come in, not just from series to series, but from snap to snap. They mess you up so much. When I was at Mumford as a defensive coordinator, they went from spread to double wing, did some weird motion shifts before, and had a guy running wide, like 4th down and 7, and they had a guy running wide open down the middle of the field because of the pre-snap motions and shifts. You know that as well as I do, Coach. When you can motion and shift and mess up defensive fronts and mess up DBs, then that helps. But both of these guys can coach. I'm excited about this game. Obviously, Central Clay County is favored, but this game's always closer than what it should be. And Central Clay County is saying that they should be favored. I honestly think they have a realistic chance to win Class 5A this year.
Yeah,
I think they're going to be that good.
You know, at the end of last year, he didn't only lose his starting running back, he lost his backup running back before they ended up ultimately losing in the playoffs.
And the thing about it is they were still competitive even with their
They had
third string.
7-0
Yeah.
To Terry Curtis, and that was a shot. You know, Danny Horn, I mean, you're talking 700 wins between those two guys when they faced off. 700 wins and 16 rings.
Hey, here's my question about Central Clay County. We know they can get in the wishbone and run it right at you. He likes to do that. If he ain't got to get out of that, he ain't going to get out of it. My thing is somebody eventually is going to get them out of that. Somebody eventually is going to stack the box and make them do something different. Is the quarterback play going to be good enough for them to win big ball games if that happens?
Well, it's interesting you say that because when Chase Horn's his offensive coordinator, And Chase is not a wishbone guy, so he does everything in his power not to be in the wishbone.
I love it when they get in the bone. I mean, it's just always something in their back pocket.
They make you like it.
Here's what's funny.
They're going to practice it no matter what.
Oh yeah, here's what's funny. Chase will show you his play sheets. Like he'll flip it over and he'll say, "This is Dad's section," and there's a little square down at the bottom right. This is the wishbone. He's got it here, and he's got all this other stuff. But when Dad comes over and talks to him, he says, "Hey, we got to go into this."
They stay in Dad's
You got to
section a
go in
lot.
section.
Yeah, hey, when crap hits the fan, they go into the
Dad's.
bone.
Going to the bone. Yeah, he'll even say that. He said, "We're going to the bone." Anything else 4A? We're going to move on to 3A now.
White Plains and Talladega, they play on Thursday night. It's Damian Dorsey's first game as the head coach at Talladega. He's an Anniston guy. Can he bring that toughness from Anniston that he has to Talladega? And I think that he's going to eventually do a really good job there. The guy to watch for them, and this is a guy that's going to have a really good ball game for them to have a chance to beat White Plains, in my opinion, even though they do get them at home, is Xavier Lyles. Running back, he's played for 2 or 3 years now. He's capable of a big play every time he touches it. It's just, is everybody around him going to do their job well enough to give him an opportunity to bust a big play? White Plains is going to be a lot better. They've got to cut down some turnovers that they had in their jamboree, which happens in jamborees. But P.J. Holloway is a sub-4 440 guy. Rodney Perry is a guy that I believe is going to have a really good junior year, even though he made me want to pull my hair out whenever I was there. I think that Crew Martin, a sophomore quarterback, got to play half the games last year as a freshman. I think he'll be okay. And Blake Jennings is going from year 1 to year 2. And I think there's a lot of excitement in that program right now. If they can go and win the first game at Talladega, that game when they play Alexandria at home 2 weeks from now, on September the 6th, they play Alexandria for the first time in each of them's history that they've played each other at home.
That's an interesting fact right there.
That's crazy.
Yeah, with a chance for them to, and both of them are going to need that ball game. Alexandria is going to play Jacksonville next week. That's going to be a tough game for them. And Alexandria had a rough year last year, so that's going to be a really big matchup if White Plains can go beat Talladega and they have some momentum going in that Alexandria game.
Right.
This next game is going to be a 4A and a 3A, so we're going to go ahead and talk about it right now. But before we do, let's go ahead and thank our sponsors. We want to thank Watkins Heating and Cooling, as always. Brad Watkins, one of my good friends up in Fife, Alabama. Anywhere on that mountain up there, DeKalb, Jackson, even if you need him down here at a wall, Calhoun, whatever. If the job's worth it, my man's going to come take care of you. Brad Watkins is a straight-up guy. He's always been good to us here at Average Joe Sports Talk. He is our presenting sponsor and does a fantastic job any of your heating and cooling needs. Also, we want to thank Countertop Creations for their always, those guys over there do a fantastic job, always helping out student athletes across the board. Tommy Wyman and company at Countertop Creations. If you guys are buying a home, purchasing a home, need any kind of granite countertops, any kind of countertops, those are the guys to see. I went in there and watched their machines work. It's incredible to watch those machines cut out.
Yeah,
granite
that
like
is
it
definitely
does.
something that you need to leave to the professionals.
Oh yeah, no, yeah, don't try that. Don't try that at home.
That is
bro.
not a
This
DIY project.
Yeah, no sir, you don't do that. And also ER Towing, ER Towing, they're always a very good source if you have any kind of trouble with towing, any kind of towing needs in and around Calhoun County, Etowah County, or whatever. You definitely want to go see those guys at ER Towing. You can find them. All these guys on Facebook. All three of these guys have Facebook pages you can go to, and really easy to contact. All right, guys, let's break this next one down. This one's a 4A and going to be a 3A, and this is going to be a monstrous game. We're all three going to talk about this one right here. We're talking about the Piedmont Bulldogs is going to be taking on Cherokee County. Now, this is a very, very interesting game for several reasons. I was sitting in with both of these coaches today. I got to talk to both of these coaches. There for a while, Piedmont completely dominated this series. From 2009 all the way, and they didn't play every year, but all the way to 2022. They never lost to Cherokee County. Now, they didn't play every one of those years, but they played several of those years. And then, Coach Kelly come in, he's changed the mindset, he's changed everything there at Cherokee County. So that was a really interesting fact. And, actually Coach Kelly brought that fact up to me. So, but then, sitting in with Jonathan Miller today, talking to him, Piedmont last year, people don't understand how hard they were hit by the injury bug and how early they were hit by the injury bug. I mean, they got it from all angles last year, and that's tough. Being at a place for the first year is tough all in itself. Getting your stuff in, just getting your stuff in stuff. And then you get out of the gate and you come out of the gate, and I remember they played 5 to a standoff in the Jamboree, and I was like, man, that's Piedmont, business usual. Injury bug hits, and then things change for them. But now, and I even asked Coach Miller this, I said, how much more comfortable are you? Like Cole Wilson at quarterback. You've seen these guys last week. With Pinto's now back healthy. Ish is out there. Weapons galore. Talk about this
You know,
team.
I was super impressed. First off, before I talk about them, like you just gave a stat. Essentially, Piedmont has beat Cherokee County ever since Cody Blanchard graduated. Is what you're saying.
Yeah, he was at 09. Yeah, that's correct.
And so,
like I said, they didn't play every year, but it'd been that long since they had a victory.
And like this game was. Like for a while, from 2009 to like it was not really a rivalry, like at all. Like it was always, you knew who was going to win the ball game. But talking about Piedmont, obviously 5-7 last year, not what they're used to. But it's like you said, they played 5 at the beginning of the year, and everybody thought, man, like they're going to be. And those two teams went in completely different directions. Fife was able to get better and better because they stayed healthy essentially, and Piedmont just like every play. Ish Bethel got hurt, Raleigh Pinto got hurt. At one point, they had big time. They had a bunch of defensive starters that were athletes that could have helped their defense last year that got injured. But Raleigh Pinto. He's that guy.
You called me about him.
Yeah, he's that guy. Like literally.
You seen him play before? He's the deal now.
Like they're going to get him the ball in a bunch of different ways, whether it's the jet sweep, whether it's the quick screen out, and that's perfect for him because if you get that guy in space and you got to have one-on-one tackling out in space, there's not a lot of people that's going to win that against him. Like he is an absolute player. He is a guy that I know his family. I actually taught his sister, and good family, good kid. Excited to see him back. Hayes Gunn, he's wearing number 1 this year. Running back, it looks like he's 6'1", 6'2", 210, 215, and that may be on the light side. But the thing that surprised me about him, he's a big back. But he actually moves kind of well. It's funny that his first name is Hayes because he reminds me of a bigger version of the Hayes brothers that played there. Like his first name's Hayes, not his last name, but Hayes Gunn is definitely a guy that I'm looking forward to see what kind of year he can have. Like it's nice to be able to turn around and hand the ball to a 210, 215-pound back that's shifty. Ish Bethel is a guy that didn't even make a play the other night, but we know what he's capable of. And then Cole Wilson he has to follow up. We talk about Jonathan Miller following up a legend and Steve Smith. What about Cole Wilson? He has to follow up the leading touchdown guy in the state of Alabama.
And yardage.
Don't let me leave that out. Mm-hmm. He's got to follow up that guy. Can you imagine that pressure? But he's a guy that can spin it.
As a freshman too, I believe.
No, I think
was he a sophomore last year?
He's a sophomore or junior last year.
Okay.
I can't remember.
I knew he was underclassman following Hayes.
But he was an underclassman following Hayes. He's got a year up under his belt now. He's got all of his weapons back. I was really impressed with how he looked in the pocket the other night. One mistake because he got hit and the ball went flying up. But I'm impressed with him. I think that Piedmont's got a chance. This game, I know they're a 13-point dog according to FHS. Don't blame us, blame them. But I think Piedmont's got a chance to keep this game a lot closer. I have question marks about Cherokee County just because Jacob Cornejo was that guy.
Let me put your mind at ease.
Ease my mind.
Let me put your mind at ease.
Ease my mind.
They are very, very deep at running back. They've got 3-headed monster at running back.
I know they got Tay Diamond.
They got Tay Diamond. They also have Woods, who also had a breakout year last year, who's more of their scat back. And enter Tristan Brown in at running back now. He used to play running back in middle school some. Now he's going to play running back some this year. Coach Kelly told me out of his own mouth today, he told me this is the deepest running back room he's ever sat in as a head coach.
And see, I've had people tell me that this team's got a chance to be as good or better than the teams the last couple of years.
Defensively, for sure, he said we're going to be better this year. So let me put your mind at ease with that. Tristan Brown, if you guys don't know who he is, we talked about him being able to squat 600, was it 650, 690 something? I don't know, they couldn't fit no more weight on him. There's a video of it online where you can see this dude squatting 690 something pounds. But tell us a little bit about what you've seen from Coach Kelly over the years that's got his program to this point.
Yeah, being a Cherokee County grad, you talk about streaks. I remember on the other end, there was a time, we had 9 straight over Piedmont. And it's always been a really good rivalry. 2 schools close. A lot of people work together and know each other. Coach Kelly really feels like, and people that are close to the program, that it's going to be a plug and play. That the program's in really good shape, and they're going to plug in several of these positions. A lot of people come back defensively, and is a really talented group. So I think that they will pick right back up where they left off. Now, can they be a Cornejo? That may be borderline generational player when you have 2,300 yards.
I think he had 3,000.
3,000. Okay, that's a phenomenal. That's a video game stat there.
I think he ended last season with 3,000.
Yeah.
If you're mad at somebody, he's the one that brought up the stat about y'all not beating them since 2009.
Yeah,
not
well,
me. Not
that
me.
was
Actually, Coach Kelly brought that up.
Actually, I don't even want to say anything. I don't want to say anything bad because Coach Kelly, it's like he always walks around like with a chip on his shoulder.
The poster.
Like he always walks around with a chip on his shoulder, like somebody's out to get him, and his kids play the same way. He's always I'm not saying he's always pissed off, but he always brings this energy of, hey, we still got something to prove.
Oh, absolutely.
And I love that about him.
When
I didn't like it when I had to coach against him.
Cherokee grad Stephen Delane Smith went to Piedmont, though the rivalry changed, and he it's amazing what he did there, and we'll see if he gets back to a back and forth.
X factor in the game, Carson Tittle. He come into his own last year. Then he had the horrible news of the ACL tear when he tore his ACL that it was torn, and then he goes out and has a near flawless game on a torn ACL in the playoffs. Then they played Catholic, who is one of the greatest defenses this state's ever seen in the Class 4A classification by stats. There's no doubt about it. And on paper and in real life, they were that good. Tough game for him, but I know for a fact, Bobby Tittle, real good friend of mine. I talk to him daily, actually. We text back and forth daily. But his son is a phenomenal football player. Now he's healed. He's ready to roll. That adds a whole nother element to this 3-headed monster they're going to have in the backfield.
I'll tell you this about Carson Tittle. He's got the heart of a lion.
Yeah.
Like, to do what he did last year on a torn ACL, I'll go, hey, if he was my quarterback, I'd go to war for him. I'd fight somebody for him.
Let me ask you, how good is Pinto?
He's a player. And it hurt my heart a little bit because, he is a White Plains kid. Yeah. He moved right before I got there, and he's a player. Like, he's going to be a guy that he'll be all county, he'll be all state. If he stays healthy, he'll be a guy that everybody's talking about, and he's going to make them a lot better in that 3A Region 6. We talk about that 3A Region 6 a lot. Locust Fork, Ohatchee, Sachs, Welborn, Weaver, J.B. Pennington, like that 3A Region 6 is absolutely loaded with teams. It's a 9-team region.
It's a gauntlet.
Yeah, it's a gauntlet. Yeah. But I honestly believe that Piedmont could win the region, and I think it's going to be a big part with having their weapons back, and I think a big part of that's Raleigh Pinto. Like, he can play. Like, he's shifty. He's a big kid. I like him.
Yeah, he's going to be a weapon-ish weapon. Cole's going to get the ball out. This is a very exciting times if you're a Piedmont Bulldog, because I'm telling you, Coach Miller's got this team flipped right back around. Yeah. They're ready to take
And I'm
off
happy
again.
for him, too.
Absolutely.
Like, to be a guy who's had as much success, and you're going and you're replacing Steve Smith, and then to have the things happen that happened last year. At times last year, he just like he was tired, just like he was beat down. But when I saw him at Media Day, he had that Jonathan Miller look back about him. He felt better. He felt like they were going to be more athletic defensively. He had on some new kicks, had on his J's, so he was feeling good about himself. So I was happy about that.
That's my guy, man. Man, he's an awesome dude. What we got else in 3A? Let's see. We got it.
We got Glencoe Southeastern.
There we go. Go ahead.
All right, Glencoe. And Coach Scott Martin. Last year he did something he doesn't usually do. They got out in space and spread the field with some athletic receivers. Now he's back to doing what he does, and they're back in the box and as he calls it, the ugly eagle, and they're going to get physical and shorten the game and smash you in the mouth and knock you around. Now Southeastern on the other end, up and coming program, 7-4, 10-2, 8-3, won a lot of games of late. Brand new spinoff from Aniana, so that one will be fun to watch.
Yeah, absolutely. Scott Martin, I'll take the Pepsi challenge on this. Does anybody want to go to the golf course with him?
No.
I'll take Scott Martin and whatever y'all want to do. He's a true
Handicap's pretty good.
Yeah, no, he's a real deal. Let's roll this thing over into 2A now. So 2A, again, brought to you by ER Towing and Recovery and Countertop Creations. All of our classifications tonight are brought to you by those two gentlemen there and those two companies. All right, here we go. This is a 2A interesting game right here. We're going to talk about Coosa Christian. You know, they're going on the road. They're playing a juggernaut out of Georgia here. Pierce County, Georgia, who was state champions last year. They were 14-1. They ended up winning the state championship. I believe they beat Rock Martin in the state championship in a shootout. Very physical team. Coach O'Brien knows they're up against it. Swain Morris, I believe, is over there on the coaching staff. He's the defense coordinator.
He's defense coordinator and got him a ring over there.
That's right. And look, hey, hats off, because, you know, Swain goes across the board. He had a really good team at Gaston to go over there and win a ring, and that's what you want to do. That's what he did. And I'm sure him being a part of that program has helped set this game up. On the Coosa Christian side of it, you know, I talked to Marco Bryant today. It's the business as usual. You know, John David Justice has been starting there since his 8th grade year. He's been the starter at Coosa Christian since his 8th grade year. I mean, that guy has been a rock for them. You know, it's Amanda Justice, the principal. It's her son and Jack Justice's son. Great kid. But there's another couple guys I want to talk about. We know what we're going to get from John David Justice. We know how he's going to distribute the ball out. Cannon Wilson in the backfield's returning. He's always explosive. He really emerged last year, scored 2 touchdowns in the state championship game, had a great playoff run. He just got better as the season went on, and I look for big things out of him. We also have, you know, Dylan Edwards is a guy they're going to have out wide. Really fast kid, has really come into his own. He catches everything around him. He's a super fast, high-end kid out on the edge. Really good baseball player as well. Really good kid overall. I look for him to have a breakout year. Eli Moats is back.
You better say something good about him.
Oh, yeah.
That's a big old boy.
It's got a couple offers now, too. They got him playing tight end. They move him out on the edge some. Cleto Bryant, Swiss Army knife. He's all over the place. They use him. You know, they'll use him in the slot. They'll use him at tailback. They'll play him at quarterback some.
And he's going to get 100 tackles. You can go ahead and count it.
He's going to get close to 200 tackles usually on defense. But, you know, just talking about this offensive side of the football, man, they got weapons everywhere. Kylan Johnson's on the edge, who, you know, is one of the faster kids in America in his class at one time. So, yeah, they're going to be loaded. They're going to be tough to stop. That being Coosa's offense. On their defensive side, some of the same names, you know, Kylan Johnson's shutdown corner. You're going to have DJ Mackey. You're going to have Moats. You're going to have Franklin on the line. Is probably their best defensive lineman. They've moved Dylan East from center to nose, so he just flopped over, doing a tremendous there to anchor them from the defensive line front. He's outstanding what he's done with his body. The transition since he's been in the weight room with Teddy Whitmire, how he's transitioned his body. You know, he used to be a little bit pudgy, but then he's lean, he's strong as an ox. I mean, he's really done a really good job taking care of himself. Look for big things out of him. I could sit here and name others. I could go on and on and on, but I look for big things out of Coosa, Pierce County. That's gonna be a tall task, though.
Well, you mentioned something, the weight room program. Like, they have really good players, but what Teddy's done in the weight room is as you win games in the weight room, and also you build a mentality in the weight room. I think that's where you build that mental toughness, and you can't say enough about the job he's done. But Pierce County, coached by Oxford native Ryan Herring, shout out to him, gave me my first job out of college. Coached here, played here. His dad won 3 state championships here, then
he's nothing but a winner himself.
Yeah, he's nothing but a winner. Barry Bryant said it best. I ain't never been nothing but a winner.
He's won everywhere he's been.
But he's won everywhere he's been. He even won at Shelby County. He won at Lincoln, came to Oxford, won there, and then he kind of followed in his dad's footsteps and went to Georgia. And then he's in South Georgia. And South Georgia is a different brand of football. But one thing I will say, and they've won 2 state championships since he's been over there. They bring back their quarterback, who's a really, really good player. But one thing I can say is Marco Bryant has proven since he's been there, they'll play anybody, anytime. I mean, they come back the next week and play 6A Pell City. And so he's proven that he'll play anybody, anytime. They're not going to be scared to play anybody. Like, they're not going to go in with that mentality. I promise you that.
Which is fascinating. You and I as coaches know so many head coaches that schedule for wins. They're looking for us pile up as many wins as they can. And his philosophy from day one has been, hey, for us to be elite level program, for us to take that next step, we got to beat those kind of people. We got to play those kind of people. And so far, it's paid off.
Well, the thing about this is they're not going to get tested much in their region. And so he's got to be ready. Like, when they get to the playoffs, they're not going to face many teams that are better and more physical, because I know the brand of football that they're going to play over there too, than Pierce County. Like, he's not playing to just maybe luck up and win 10 ball games. He is playing to win a state championship. That is their goal. And they're not going to do that with the competition week in, week out in their region.
This next one we're going to talk about is going to be West End and Pleasant Valley. Both of you guys know these two teams pretty well. Obviously, you know, being in Etowah County last year, you being down here Calhoun County. You know, Matt Harris is taking over out there at West End. It's going to be an interesting game. Pleasant Valley, they're going to be pretty tough to defend, I can tell you that. I'm going to let you talk about them. Their quarterback's phenomenal.
Yeah, you know, Pleasant Valley made the playoffs last year for the first time in maybe ever. Maybe it's been a while. It's been since maybe early 2000s, but made the playoffs last year. And at Media Day, their guys were talking about, not only do we want to make the playoffs, we want to host a playoff game. And so on one of my shows, I was like, hey, y'all, this is going to be one of Coach's crazy storylines, but Pleasant Valley's got a chance to finish second in the region and host a playoff game. And they all looked at me like I was crazy. But I think, one, they're used to winning now. I think, two, Jonathan Nix does a really, really good job out there, and he finally has a coaching staff, which when he first got to Pleasant Valley, he was lucky to have 1 or 2 paid coaches a year. He does a really good job, finally got a staff. I think Braxton Salster, who's going to be a sophomore this year, is one of the better athletes. He can spin it. He's a good, really good football player. Braden Papa was a kid that I really liked at Media Day. He plays a physical brand of football. They're going to have to replace Samuel Duncan, who was kind of their Swiss Army knife, who played linebacker, ended up moving to offensive line because they had 8,000 injuries on their offensive line last year, it felt like. But there's 2 reasons. I think they're going to be really good again for Pleasant Valley. I really think that. And then 2, I think that their schedule and their region sets up for them to have a chance to get in that second spot. I don't think that they're going to necessarily make a deep run in the playoffs, but I do think they can host a playoff game.
Well, and they were headed up already, and like you said, you know, who you get, what region you get in, and is everything. When that, you know, there's a reason all the coaches sit there and we're waiting for everything to come out on the region and the classification. That is a.
I never got a break on that, by the way.
Yeah, I know. I can relate to you. It's a really big day. On the you know, on the other side, Matt Harris coming in as head coach. I'm really excited. You know, following 5 and 6, 7 and 4, and 4 to 6 by Derek Sewell. You know, he got a lot of kids out. I you know, really believe in the guy. Really good weight room coach and just a solid fundamental coach. And I'm excited to see what he does.
Yeah, I'm intrigued by this matchup because I think both of these teams have some excitement. West End's been a lot better. I think their program's moving in the right direction. And obviously Pleasant Valley is moving in the right direction. So I'm excited about this matchup and who can get the W in this matchup.
I get to sit in with Matt Harris. Every time I go out there, he's like I've known him for 100 years. I just sit down and talk with him over and over. I sat in when he got hired, went out and featured him, and loved the guy. When he was at Gaston, I used to go and sit in with him and talk with him for hours and hours on time. So I love that guy. Looking forward to this great matchup. Who else we got in 2A?
Got Asbury and Gaston. Derek Sewell comes in, coming over from West End, first-year coach, and got a lot of kids out, and always a lot of excitement when you get a new head coach and play in Asbury. So Gaston looking to see if they can start off 1-0.
You know, Asbury is interesting. They have one of the best fan bases. You know, I made a post about them. Let's see, it's about last year before, and dude, it was like it went nuclear, and it was just something simple. You know, just made a simple post about some pictures and just said, you know, they fought. It was in the game when the 40-something Gaston game. You remember that one?
Yeah.
Yeah, and it just went. That was 2 years ago, right?
Right.
And it just went crazy, and I was like, man. So then I got to noticing anytime I post anything from Asbury, like whether it be media days, whatever, it's just an explosion out there. So yeah, I'm interested to see, Gaston, what's going to happen. They got you got guys 20 more kids out this year.
That's right.
Like that? 20
Right.
more kids out. So that's going to be an interesting game for sure. You got anything 2A over here?
Going on that right there, you talk about Asbury, talking about their fans, like it's a cool thing to see a team who don't have fair weather fans, because it's no surprise that they're usually not great. The kids play hard, but to have fans that still support their kids in their school, no matter what, that's a big deal.
That is a big deal. I agree with that 100%.
Club fans are there, win or lose or draw, and that's the same thing there.
I don't have a 2A, but we missed Sylvania and North Jackson.
Oh yeah. Do you want to?
North Jackson, first off, I thought they looked a lot better in their jamboree game against Cherokee County. And then, I'm going to refrain from saying too much about
lightning delay. The game they only got in.
Hey,
what?
Hey,
an hour or so.
Don't do North Jackson like that. All right.
No, it happened against Cherokee County.
I know, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I'm trying to make them sound like, look, they only give up 14 points, okay?
Oh, okay, I got you.
All right. Don't do that to me. Don't do that to me. I'm trying to talk this game up.
All right, go ahead.
All right, Sylvania, I'm going to refrain from saying too much. Y'all know more about Sylvania.
Mm-hmm.
I do know their head coach. His first coaching job was for me at White Plains. I love that dude. Great guy. Keeps having kids. I got to tell them to stop having kids so much. They've just had a kid, now they're pregnant with another one. But Tanner Nelson is a great young coach. Been at Collinsville. He's from Collinsville, and he did a great job at Collinsville. And now he's at Sylvania. And I want nothing but the best for them. Their defensive coordinator, or used to be the defensive coordinator at Collinsville, Chris Condy, is an Oxford guy. He's helping. He's went over with Tanner, and he's going to help out with the offense now. So I'm excited about that.
Yeah, that's where I'll be Friday night, and that's two of my former players, as Tanner being the head coach, and then Justin Little being the defense coordinator. So I'm excited for those guys, and again, that was another one I watched a little bit of film. North Jackson is obviously trending up, and they're North Jackson, and a couple players moved in. So they're looking to get back and be in North Jackson of Old Pisgah beat them out in the last year. So, but that'll be interesting debut. Really, really good running back at Sylvania. So
when I found out that he was back, I was like, okay, you'll be okay.
He's a dude, yes.
Yeah, Parham's a really good player.
He's a dude now. He can tote the mail. We're going to move this thing over into 1A. Going to kick this thing off with, I'm going to talk about Ider and Section, both of these guys. Ider moving down from 2A to 1A, and as soon as that came out, everybody in the state immediately turned their eyes to basketball with the potential machine gun trailer versus Ace Austin, regional matchup that they'll probably be having. So, but it's football season right now, and we'll talk about that when it's time to talk about that. But, that's the first thing everybody thought about.
No doubt.
Down. So Ider is an interesting situation. Again, they were kind of thin last year, hit with the injury bug. We had Coach Grant on several times last year on a Final Drive when I was doing the radio show. He's a good friend of mine. He's, when you move down to 1A, you think, that's 1A North's pretty tough. I mean, it's very tough actually, and we've seen that from some of these other teams we're going to talk about in a little bit. But 1A North is not no cakewalk, And playing Section, Coach Edwards is up there, Riley Edwards is up there, but that's going to be a pretty tough game. I believe they have this game a 1-point line. Ider's a 1-point favorite in this game. Going to be interested to see. And if we went to media days up there, DeKalb, Marshall County media days. The Ider kids have the eye test. I can tell you that. They look big. They look physical. They look strong. Interested to see when they're all healthy. Section. Coach Edwards been there a couple of years now, so now it's one of those situations where you got to start performing, and it's time to get it on. But I think both of these two teams is very equally matched. Coach, both of you guys coached as head coaches, so going into these week 1 openers like this, when you're in a game you physically could lose and not scheduling a cupcake, talk about what you're wanting to see out of your guys early and often.
Well, and I can tell you from Riley's end of things, because I talked to him a lot. Riley Edwards is Section's head coach, and he was a longtime defense coordinator of mine. and he's really circled game one because when you're a program in this situation, you need success. You need good things to happen.
Yeah.
That really worked. He's a weight room warrior now. He really sinks a lot of time into. He was trying to change the mindset during the offseason and just trying to get a winner's mindset. And when you come into a program that's been down, really important how you think. You know, the first time adversity hits, you can't go, here we go again. And so kudos to him and how hard he's worked. But he has Eider circled. And, you know, it sounds like Eider's got a pretty good football team. So I'm anxious to see what comes out.
Yep. All right.
I mean, you asked a question about going to a week one matchup. You kind of get to see where you're at.
That you could lose.
Yeah, like you
Not
kind of
no
get to see
cupcake.
where you're at, and like when I was at White Plains, I really didn't have that capability because I had to try to schedule non-region games that we could win, but we always ended up playing Ramburn. And even though it was 2A to 4A, they still had as many guys out for football as we did.
100%.
It was always they always play tough football. You always knew what you were going to get. It was always going to be a good ball game. I think every game we played but one was a one-score ball game. And
That's
so,
incredible.
yeah, so, and even going back to last year, it was a one-score ball game. So I think that looking at that, like, you got to play, but it also let me see where we were at, how physical we were, because we didn't play a whole lot of Jamboree games then, because you either played week 0 or you played a Jamboree, and we always played week 0, and they were always my week 0 opponent the last couple of years I was there. I think the last 3 years I was there, we played them week 0. And
somebody always shines that you didn't have, you know, they come out of nowhere and they become a Friday night, you know, gladiator.
the scary thing that we hadn't
the lights
talked
come
about.
on.
And when the lights come on.
The scary thing that we hadn't talked about, though, is week 0, week 1, while it's hot outside, like, you always have people that's going to catch cramps. It don't matter. That was the scariest thing I had. We ran and ran and ran, and people don't realize you can run all you want to, but if you don't take care of your body going into the week, if you're not pouring electrolytes into your body, then you're in trouble. Like, I mean, like, I wish that I would have known our guy with
Rodney Cooper.
when I was
Shout
coaching,
out.
because but I wish I would have known him then, because like we tried to pump our kids. I remember we asked for like Gatorades, we asked for all that stuff so that we could pump our kids with electrolytes so that we didn't have that problem. So that's always a scary thing going into week 1 as well, especially when you're in one of those matchups where it could go either way.
Absolutely, no doubt. This next one, man, is a very interesting game. We're going to talk about Spring Garden versus Sandrock. You know, two of my favorite coaches, Coach Ragsdale and Coach Heath, two great guys, two great coaches, two great communities, that being Spring Garden and Sandrock. You know, last year, Ragsdale talked about this extensively on his show today. He talked about exiting in the first round. That's not the Spring Garden standard. But he said, you know what it did do? It created me leverage to talk to my guys every single day when we're in the weight room, every single day where we're slacking about, hey, are we going to be a first-round exit team again? You know, it gave him leverage that he needed on his own team. And I loved his approach about it, you know, because he said, yeah, you know, we went out in the first round and we're not going to stand for that. And he said the guys have responded positively for that.
You know, you talking about that, like, I thought this game was not going to be close until I saw Sandrock the other day.
Yeah. And he's got more guys out and they're healthy.
I think
Another
there's a
team
couple
hit
of
the
things, and I'll go here. I think, 1, they got more guys out, and 2, I think he's been able to retain some really good players instead of them moving out and going somewhere else.
You lose 4 or 5 players.
And I don't mean that in a bad way. Like, I want parents, players, they can do whatever's best for them and their family. But the running back that they got, he's listed, he's a senior, he's listed at, and I can't remember his name right now. I looked him up the other day after the Jamboree. He's listed at 6'1", 215, and he is an absolute hoss to bring down. And they actually had some athletes as well to go along with them. I was very impressed with them when I left the Jamboree at White Plains the other day. I thought every team was going to be better than they were last year of all the teams there, but Sandrock was the team that I circled, and I said, man, that Spring Garden game that I was kind of overlooking, I'm intrigued to see how they compete in that game. They're a 7-point dog, but I'm intrigued by that. And Spring Garden is a big question mark too, because they're not a first-round exit team.
No.
Like, so I know they've been walking around with a chip on their shoulder the entire
This is
offseason.
the deepest senior class. You know, last year he only lost 3 seniors. So they got everybody back except 3 seniors. So think about that. You know, with the Welch brothers, you know, Connor Bates, they got guys on the field that can absolutely play. Coach Heath, though, man, he's one of the best human beings. I love that dude to death. You did. You coached in the county with him. Talk about Coach Heath and how awesome of a guy he is.
Yeah, and you hit on it earlier. When you have 5 or 6 guys that go, and Cornejo for one went and had 3,000 yards at another school, or 4 go over into DeKalb County and start. Man, who survives that at this level? So he weathered the storm. He held on. Great guy. Kids love him. Go through a wall for him. They're going to spread the ball around. Have a really good offensive system. I think they're going to close the gap and start to be back. They had a good junior high that went undefeated a couple years ago, and I think it's going to start to pay dividends. And I think this will be much closer than people think. And then now this is a rivalry, and you got to realize too, the short-term people remember Spring Garden has won this thing of late. But you go before that, Sandrock had won it the 40 years before that. So Spring Garden's new on the scene. I think I saw her in the since 2010, they were top 10 in wins in 1A. Pretty impressive what's going on in the Jason Howard administration. Look for this thing to close a gap and start to be a rivalry again.
Jason Howard Field now.
Jason Howard Field, yeah.
He did a good job. When he got there, the whole mindset changed. Ragsdale's the guy for the job. He's going to be they're going to get that ship rolling right straight forward again. A couple other games we're going to talk about here. I'm going to let you lead off here. I'm going to let you take these.
Oak Grove and Weaver. Weaver travels to Oak Grove. Weaver was 4-6 last year. Coach Ken Kofer, though, is a guy that I really like. I think he tries to do it the right way. He's a guy that not only his football players, but every athlete in that school, he works out extremely hard. He's brought a lot of culture and a lot of change to that program. And they got 2 really good players, Keyshawn Allen and Caden Gooden. Quarterback Caden Gooden has a Marshall offer. Keyshawn Allen is the 2-time defending 3A 110 hurdles champion for the state of Alabama. And Taylor Green is a guy who played for me as a freshman at White Plains, moved to Texas, and then moved back in the area and moved in Weaver. He's going to bring some toughness to them. I know they didn't play as well as what they possibly could when they went to Comer, but I think Comer's still going to be a little bit better than what people think. And then the one thing that I saw the other day, they had to play Elmore County, and they had just played, and Elmore County was fresh. One thing I did notice at the Jamborees,
it's always tough.
when the team that just played, that's dog-tired in 100-degree weather, and then somebody comes out there fresh, the fresh team always look better. So they kind of got ran off the field by Elmore County, but I don't know how much you can really read into that because of that. But they have a really tough opponent as well. They're going to play Chris Musso. He's a guy that lines up in double wing. He's going to run the option. He's going to run trap. If you get upfield, you're going to give up fullback trap all night long. He's a good Christian man. They were 6-5 last year, so he's doing a really good job there as well. They did lose a really, really good fullback that we're still trying to tackle at White Plains, and so they're like a really, really good player there. But I expect that to be a good matchup there. I know Weaver's a 12-point dog, but I think Weaver can go and compete. Weaver may have athletes that can kind of I think it's going to be tough for Weaver to stop what Oak Grove does, but I think Weaver can score with them because of those athletes. It's going to be tough for Oak Grove to have any guy that can cover Keyshawn Allen consistently.
Yeah, and my hat's off to Coach Kofer. He came in with his South Georgia wing tee and a program that was left for dead. Was left for dead, and he's closing the gap. Man, I believe in him, and I think he's trending in the right direction. I can't wait to see what happens.
Yeah, no doubt. The next one, we're going to talk about Ohatchee here.
Ohatchee and New Hope, and this is actually
interesting. It's a pick 'em.
Yeah, and there's actually a line that's not even there. 5-5 last year. Jake Robertson, quarterback, is a really good player. Nate Jones, Kobe Hester. They've got a couple of move-ins. They got a kid that moved in from Anderson that's an absolute player, and a kid. I think they may have a couple of kids that's moved in from Raglan, with Raglan talking about closing the school down. He's really excited. They go from the Ugly Eagle back to the spread because it fits their personnel. They're not huge up front, but they're still going to play that tough brand of football. And I think me and you talked about it. Those teams that can line up and go wing T or go Ugly Eagle or go Wishbone, they can always line up and go spread. It's tough for those spread teams to line up and be hard-nosed and do that. But a team that's been doing that's hard-nosed, and if they can still play that physical brand of football and be able to spread you out with some athletes, Ohatchee could be dangerous as well.
Ohatchee passed the eye test as well. I've seen them at the camp Coach Mintz put on, the FCA camp, passing camp there we went to. Do you remember those guys look incredible? Coach Finley does a fantastic job out there. He's another guy that got hit by an injury bug. Remember, they were rolling last year.
I think they won their first 3 or 4, and ended up finishing 5-5 and didn't make the playoffs.
Yeah, they were rolling in injuries. Boom. Guys, let's talk about this. Now that we brought injuries up, how important is it? We seen last week, jamborees. How important is it to not get people hurt in these jamborees or early in these seasons? Because, anytime you go out on the football field, there's a chance of you getting injured. I mean, obviously. But, man, you definitely don't want to see it early.
Tanner Nelson called me, head coach at Sylvania, called me this week, or last week, and he said, he's got the really good running back. He said, play him, don't play him. He said he's itching to play. And I said, man, get him some snaps. Let him knock some folks around. But there again, I would pull him pretty quick because you know what he can do. Let's find some other people. Nobody will remember that jamboree 10 years from now. But if he blew a knee, they would remember it a lifetime.
Yeah.
So and it's a fine line, and injuries. Wow, you talking a lot of prehab and rehab and weight rooms big, and it's like getting ready for a triathlon to get ready for the season.
Yeah, if you're in a place like Tanner Nelson, don't get that guy hurt. Don't lose your job before you even coach a real game.
And he did that.
Parham, he's a phenomenal football player, and you remember this time last year, early in the year, he had 315 yards, I believe, in a game. He was the player of the week for us, which I thought was incredible. That's going to wrap up our coverage, but guys, let's just talk about the season a little bit. We still got a little more time on the show. Who are some of these teams that you think is a little underrated at this point?
Wow, great question. And we, I don't think anybody's surprised at it, but Oxford is looking to take that next step, and by next step, I think they're getting ready to be back and be Oxford, and make a run, which they definitely were not the last couple of years. So I'm interested to see if Oxford makes a run at a blue trophy.
Yeah, Oxford's been young, and people don't realize how many guys that Coach Adams lost his first year there, whether by graduation or people leaving.
I think he had 26 seniors and 13 transferred out.
And if those 13 transfers would have stayed, they could have had a chance to have been really good his first year. I think that they've been playing young guys. They finally got a chance to. Be really good. Now I think the question with them is, like I said earlier, up front. And also 6A is loaded. Clay Chalkville's still going to be talented. Parker is good. Pike Road is really good. Saraland still got KJ Lacey, who's committed to go to Texas. They're loaded. That's the problem with Oxford. Is 6A is probably top to bottom.
It's the toughest classification. I believe.
So
super top heavy.
It's even more top heavy this year than I feel like. Last year, I think going into it, everybody kind of felt like Saraland and Clay Chalkville. This year, I think there's 7 or 8 teams that have a realistic chance to go and win the thing. So I think Oxford is a team that I think is going to be really good. I think, and I've talked about them a lot earlier, and I'm trying not to put too much pressure on Jonathan Miller, but I think that Piedmont's got a chance to be a lot better. I don't see Piedmont going 5-7. I think they got a chance to win the region, and I think that they got a chance to make a run in the playoffs. I think they could be that good from what I saw the other night.
That was the team I was going to say. I think Piedmont's going to be surprising people. I'm telling you. They have too many weapons. They just have too many weapons. And, like you said, he was replacing Steve Smith as head coach, but Jack Hayes being replaced by Cole is also equally,
Two back-to-back, just amazing.
And imagine doing that as an underclassman.
Hey, and Cole's going to be a senior this year. So he was a junior last year.
So he's a junior last year. Okay. So I was still sitting there thinking, to replace Jack Hayes, that is incredible.
Yeah.
There ain't no doubt about it. Another thing I want to talk to you guys about, who are some of these teams that we know is going to do what they do? A team we didn't get to talk about today is the Fife Red Devils. They have the week off. He couldn't find somebody to play him, surprise, surprise. So he only plays 9 games. They also are facing a team that's off this week in Pisgah, right out of the gate, next Friday night.
That's going to be a good ball game.
Not breaking that game down, but let's talk about these two teams, and we know what they have coming back. Beckett, I want to let you talk about Coach Benefield a little bit.
Oh, he's amazing. He is the GOAT. He's definitely on Mount Rushmore. And then you're sitting there with just a generational back, which, and the Anderson kid, and it's just amazing to watch him run the football. And listen, even when you're favored, it is nothing's a given. I see teams mess up talent all the time. So let's see what happens. And you and I sat down with Luke Pruitt for a long time this summer, and Luke has turned Pisgah into a juggernaut as well. So man, you talk about some high action right out of the gate.
Yeah.
This season.
That's going to be a fun one to break down next week.
You know what I like about Coach Benefield? He don't care what you think about him. He's going to wear his jeans in regular season games. He's not going to wear them when he gets to the Super 7. He just does it an old-fashioned way. They kind of know they do it that way from the time they start playing there until the time they get done. And also, they do have one of the better players in our coverage area and one of the better players in the state in Logan Anderson, who is the guy that, had for him to not really have a whole lot of offers until he got in touch with Dex. And I'm not trying to say that Dex don't want. Dex would be mad at me for saying that.
Yeah, Dex, man.
Dex would be so mad at me for saying that.
Dex does a lot of good stuff.
But Dex does a lot of good things.
We need to say that for Dex. Dex does great for kids.
I think
he's in it for the right reason.
I think sometimes those guys that do that, I think some guys mess it up for all the other ones.
Absolutely.
That is not Dex.
That's not Dex.
I've spent a lot of time with Dex. Dex is a really, really good dude. Dex is awesome. Dex does it for the right reason. He don't make a killing. There's some guys that will knock your head off charging you to do that.
Oh, absolutely.
Dex does it for the right reason. What he did for Logan Anderson, which Logan didn't need that much help, and a lot of others. Yeah. But
he just needed to be seen, though.
Yeah.
Just as long as, he's headed to Clemson.
Yeah. I mean, so, he's a really good player. I'm excited about seeing him play this year as well.
A guy that don't get talked about, Benefield said this at Media Days, is hilarious, is Simon Hicks. He don't get talked about enough for what he does up there for Fife Red Devils. He's their kind of plug-and-play guy. I've said myself, and I mean it wholeheartedly, I think Tucker Wilkes is probably the best. If you just looked up an old-school definition of a football player, like a Dick Butkus type,
And now you're talking my language.
Yeah, relentless, all that effort. That's the Tucker Wilkes. But Simon Hicks is the guy for Fife that mends those fences. And Benefield said, well, a lot of people don't think a lot about him when they mention him, maybe with Anderson or Wilkes. But he said, until he hits you. And then you'll know that's a whole nother story. So
yeah.
I thought that was hilarious.
Yeah.
Another team, I'm telling you, I just don't think they're going to fall off is Cherokee County. After seeing Woods run the ball, after seeing Tay Diamond, after seeing Tristan Brown run the ball, and then knowing Carson Tittle has gotten that much better with the year, the game's slowing down for him, and everybody's back on defense, I don't think they're going to – I just don't think they're going to fall off.
Speaking of that, staying in the same region, I think Anniston's going to be a team that takes another step forward. And Coach Rico Jackson's second year. And I can't – if both of those teams can stay healthy, Rico feels really good about the culture that he's been able to implement at Anniston.
How about moving to the north, too?
Moving to the north.
Easier.
And then also, new turf, renovated stadium. It's really big for the city of Anniston to see them do that and them to do it the right way. That stadium looks unbelievable.
Kudos for them to commit and get to 2024. And make. Hey, don't think it doesn't make a difference to make a commitment facilities to the community, to the school, and especially to the kids. They get so excited about it.
Yeah, I think that's going to be. I think Anniston and Cherokee County later on down the road. That's going to be a fun one to watch. That'll be a game that we actually do for TV24. It'll be at Cherokee County, but that's going to be our game of the week that week. So I'm excited about that.
Yeah, that team right there is definitely going to be one to watch out for. Rico's one of the best guys. If you ain't never got to talk to him or meet Rico Jackson, he's just a stand-up guy, athletic director there at Anniston. He is one of the guys that another guy, when you meet him, you feel like you've known him for a long time. Another team I don't think that's going anywhere is Arab. I think Arab is
Yeah, y'all
gonna
didn't
be
give me
very
a
good.
chance to jump in and
Hey,
talk
jump
about
in.
Kyle
Let's hear
Rock. Like he's a
Kyle
wrestling. He's a
Rowland.
wrestling guy. He's tough, does things the right way. A really good guy. Has kind of waited his turn. I don't think there's anybody that's more deserving of a head coaching position than him. He's waited his turn. He's been at Southside, been at Oxford. Which when he left Southside to come to Oxford, that blew my mind because he's a Southside guy.
Yeah.
But he's won state championships in wrestling. He's finished second in in the state championship wrestling. I think he's going to bring that toughness mentality just the same way that they've always had up there since Lee Osment went up there. I don't think much changes there because of the guy they hired. And so I think because of that, they're still going to have that continuity, and I think they'll be successful too. I agree with you.
Inside and out.
Yep.
Yeah, those transitions, it's always interesting to see because you could have gone outside and started over and that would have made it tough. Let's see.
A team with a big question mark is, and I don't know how he's going to do it, that's why he's getting paid the big bucks and I'm sitting here, is how do you replace 10 starters at Sardis, Beckett?
I don't know that you do. Of course, the stability at quarterback gives you a little bit of peace of mind. I've watched a lot of Sardis film, so to be honest with you, they have some really nice weapons. I like the running back. There's several of the linemen that I really like, so I've got a little insight in that. I've helped watch some of their fall film and got a couple receivers. So we'll see if will they be able to play that way on Friday night because these guys are all new. They're all new.
Shout out to B.J. Brooks and what he's done up there. Right now, their field house looks totally different than it did last year. He does everything in the process. He come in, change the uniform, change the logo on the helmet. Just little small steps, and then he told me, he said, next year we're going to start on this field house. And if you look at the field house, they've done tons of renovations up there. Something you need to see if you ever get a chance to come up to Sardis.
Oh, hey, now that I'm here every day, I'm going up there during the day and hanging out with him and seeing that.
And let me tell you this, on a Friday night out there, and you've seen this, they tailgate. They have a full-blown tailgate right outside their field house. Like you can smell the food inside of their field house. And all the parents and people in the community come out, and there's like rows of tables of food and people grilling.
And they played with everybody last year, I was very impressed in his first year. They're winning big in basketball. They're winning big in baseball. Does this translate? Can BJ, and obviously he brought so much of Coach Niblett's culture, which is amazing. If you've ever had a chance to listen to Coach Nibs, which is an interesting game this week, matter of fact, with
Moody and
Gainesville and Moody. So let's see what happens at Sardis.
I tell you, a couple more teams of our local teams that we hadn't talked about because they're playing in a jamboree. And this is another one that, like, in a jamboree, I don't know if I want to play Jeff Smith in the style of football they play in a jamboree.
Right.
But Mumford and Welborn play in a jamboree game Thursday night at Mumford. And that's going to be fun to watch, too. Welborn, Kyle Bright, Ethan Carroll, Jackson Newton, he went and did really good at Ole Miss camp. Like, he's going to be a guy that gets a lot of offers. I think he has a Cincinnati offer now.
No, Newton, I think he went to IMG.
He didn't go.
He didn't go?
He did not go.
Okay.
No, he's still at Welborn.
Good.
That's
good.
really good
That's
for
a blessing.
Welborn.
Yeah. I thought somebody told me he's already.
No, he's still at Welborn.
Okay, good. That's
And
great.
unless it's breaking news, but as far as I know, I think he's staying at Welborn.
Okay, good.
And then Mumford has a guy, and I don't know if you got to watch him play last year. They have a running back who ran for over 2,000 yards last year. His name is Tank Edmondson. That's not his real first name, but that's what everybody's calling him. That's the only thing I know. But everybody calls him Tank. He runs like a tank. He's low center of gravity, runs behind the shoulder pads, tough to bring down. But the question for them is, do they have enough help around him to get them back to the playoffs? B.J. Anderson in second year is a starting quarterback there. And so they're another team that's that question mark team. Michael Easley does really good stuff offensively, but do they have enough? I mean, you got a 2,000-yard back. Do you have enough help? I hear they're going to be a lot better defensively. I hear they got two really good players. Tank's dad always calls into the shows and always is talking to us, and he told me they got two guys defensively and they're going to be a lot better defensively this year. So I'm intrigued to see if that running game and defense can get them back to the playoffs in a tough region with Handley and St. James and Booker T. Washington, Bullitt County.
The South is
it's a different animal.
It's
Oh,
a
yeah.
different animal.
Yeah, football last year, we were winless up until the Fife Red Devils broke through, and then Clay Chalkville followed suit. So we went 2 and 5 overall in the state championship games. Yeah, we got to perform better than that.
Yeah.
We got just over a minute here. Anything else you guys would like to talk about?
No, I'm just excited when you get this time of year and you just kind of everybody, man, the fans turn out. What kind of team are we going to have? All that. Parents they've sat in the parking lot. They've made commitments all year, just sitting there waiting. Kids, they have worked out. As we know, what kind of commitment they make to get ready. So I'm excited to see who comes out of nowhere. And
There's always that. There's
Somebody's
always a
gonna
thing.
emerge. All right, and we'll know it this Friday night.
Yeah. First, just thanks for y'all having me. I appreciate it.
We appreciate
I hope
you
I get to
coming
come back on again. And then next week we'll get to know who actually. We're just speculating right now.
You tell them
next
about
week.
Primetime Sports again.
Next
too,
week
brother.
we will have it. Primetime Sports. Go follow us on Facebook. We try to do our best to follow, make graphics, do anything we can to make sure we spotlight these kids in our community. So that's what we try to do.
We want to thank our sponsors again. Watkins Heating and Cooling, as always, is our prime sponsor as well. And then our classification breakdown from Countertop Creations and ER Towing and Recovery. We want to thank those guys. Also, guys, it's football time.
It's football time. I can feel it.
I can feel it in the air. That's all we have for this week. We'll be back here next week. Thank you guys for watching.
Look, have you ever had a bank give you money for anything? Family Savings actually pays me for keeping my money at their credit union.